You'll realize you never spent for pleasure, you spent out of guilt. And every time you tried to ease that guilt with more consumption, you just financed it again. The cycle is invisible, but real. First you buy, then you punish yourself. And the system applauds, because now it has your money and your mind. But I work hard, I deserve to treat myself. No, you treat yourself like someone swallowing expired medicine, hoping for relief, knowing it'll hurt later. This guilt didn't begin at the checkout. It was born in childhood, in the praise for saving, in the shame for asking. Now every click carries that emotional weight, and it's heavy, because guilt doesn't show up on your bank statement. It shows up in your stomach, in your sleep, in that constant sense that you did something wrong, even when you bought the right thing. You call that freedom? I did too, until I saw the cage. The guilt you feel when spending isn't truly yours. It's inherited. It was planted quietly between silences and well-meaning phrases. Money doesn't grow on trees. You think we're rich? Only after everything's paid. These little seeds became emotional roots that now manifest as pain every time you try to allow yourself something. You're not spending, you're confessing. Every purchase becomes penance, and the market knows your script. It offers freedom with interest, pleasure on a payment plan, success with cashback. The illusion of choice is just a stage where you're the actor and the accused. You feel guilty when you buy, and empty when you don't. And between these two poisons, you pick the one that stings less. But both weaken you. That's why you can't celebrate a purchase without that stab of regret. Your mind was programmed to associate joy with punishment. Spending became a crime. And you? The judge and executioner. You don't spend because you want. You spend to punish yourself with style. It's an emotional theater. First the desire, then the slip, then the internal punishment. A quiet, ruthless cycle. You buy and smile, but already feel the poison rising. Pleasure lasts minutes. Guilt lasts days. And the worst part? You repeat it. This is the system's most effective trap. It doesn't need to forbid anything. It just teaches you to punish yourself afterward. It grants you the right to consume, but steals your right to celebrate. Every time you try to treat yourself, a voice sabotages. You didn't need that. You should have saved. Now deal with the consequences. Freedom has been reduced to anxiety, neatly packaged in monthly installments. But there's a crack in this script. The moment you realize the pain didn't come from the purchase, it came from the story you attached to it. The item didn't hurt you. The guilt did. And it was already there. Guilt is control. And no one is easier to control than someone who always feels in debt, to life, to others, to themselves. The system doesn't want you to feel free. It wants you to feel lacking. Because those who feel lacking consume more. Not out of luxury, but desperation. Guilt becomes fuel, and marketing becomes temporary forgiveness. Watch how they sell to you. You deserve this. You've worked hard. You suffered. Now treat yourself. That's not a promotion, it's emotional absolution. And the worst part? It works. For a few minutes you feel relieved, but guilt always comes back, because the relief was never real. It was manufactured. And the more you consume to escape it, the stronger it grows. The system doesn't sell freedom. It sells anesthesia. And every anesthesia has a cost. Not at the checkout, but in your conscience, in your sleep. In the gnawing sense that you're always behind, even when you pay in full. This guilt you feel when spending isn't always yours. Sometimes it's your mother's, your father's, generations shaped by scarcity and fear. You carry stories you never lived, but that show up in your body every time you open your wallet. Fear of lack, fear of excess, fear of judgment, for having, for wanting, for allowing. Money becomes a trigger, not because of what it is, but what it represents. You don't feel guilty for wasting money. You feel guilty for trying to live outside the story of sacrifice, as if pleasure were betrayal, as if comfort were weakness, as if spending on yourself were selfish, not sacred. Your mind was trained to serve, not to honor. But there is a rupture. And it begins when you realize you don't have to repeat the script. You can return the guilt you inherited and write your own ending. One where spending isn't pain, but power. Today, before any purchase, try this. Ask yourself if you want the item or the forgiveness. If it's the item, buy it in peace. If it's forgiveness, pause, breathe, write it down, and ask, whose guilt am I financing? You don't need to keep paying the emotional bill for trauma that isn't yours. For the next 5 days, every time you feel guilt after spending, write it down. Not the amount, the guilt. Name it. Where did it come from? Who did it belong to? When did it begin? That list becomes your map. And in those lines, you'll see clearly. This prison only continues because you feed it in silence, not with money. Spending with awareness is an act of rebellion against conditioning. Real luxury isn't spending without thought, it's choosing without guilt. And only those who break free from guilt can truly own what they buy. Comment below, what was the last thing you bought that made you feel guilty, and why? Share this with someone who spends to feel better and ends up feeling worse. Subscribe. The next strike will aim at what you've been taught to hide. Only those who break free from guilt can truly own what they buy.